Welcome to Storytime Classic, where timeless tales come to life. Today, we invite you aboard a mysterious voyage into the unknown with the Trip of Le Horla by the legendary Guy de Maupassant. Aboard a luxurious yacht, a journey begins that will blur the lines between reality and madness. Settle in, press play, and let the eerie waves of this psychological masterpiece carry you away. On the morning of July 8th, I received the following telegram. Fine day. Always my predictions. Belgian frontier. Baggage and servants left at noon at the social session. Beginning of maneuvers at 3. So I will wait for you at the works from 5 o'clock on. Jovies. At 5 o'clock sharp, I entered the gas works of La Valette. It might have been mistaken for the colossal ruins of an old town inhabited by cyclops. There were immense, dark avenues separating heavy gasometers, standing one behind another, like monstrous columns, unequally high and undoubtedly, in the past the supports of some tremendous, some fearful iron edifice. The balloon was lying in the courtyard and had the appearance of a cake made of yellow cloth, flattened on the ground under a rope. That is called placing a balloon in a sweep net, and, in fact, it appeared like an enormous fish. 200 or 300 people were looking at it, sitting or standing, and some were examining the basket, a nice little square basket for human cargo, bearing on its side in gold letters on a mahogany plate the words, Le Horla. Suddenly the people began to stand back, for the gas was beginning to enter into the balloon through a long tube of yellow cloth, which lay on the soil, swelling and undulating like an enormous worm. But another thought, another picture occurs to every mind. It is thus that nature itself nourishes beings until their birth. The creature that will rise soon begins to move, in the attendance of Captain Jovies, as Le Horla grew larger, spread and put in place the net which covers it, so that the pressure will be regular and equally distributed at every point. The operation is very delicate and very important, for the resistance of the cotton cloth of which the balloon is made is figured not in proportion to the contact surface of this cloth with the net, but in proportion to the lengths of the basket. Le Horla, moreover, has been designed by M. Mallet, constructed under his own eyes and made by himself. Everything had been made in the shops of M. Jovies by his own working staff, and nothing was made outside. We must add that everything was new in this balloon, from the varnish to the valve, those two essential parts of a balloon. Both must render the cloth gas-proof, as the sides of a ship are waterproof. The old varnishes, made with a base of linseed oil, sometimes fermented and thus burned the cloth, which in a short time would tear like a piece of paper. The valves were apt to close imperfectly after being opened, and when the covering called cataplasm was injured. The fall of M. Lost in the open sea during the night, proved the imperfection of the old system. The two discoveries of Captain Jovies, the varnish principally, are of inestimable value in the art of ballooning. The crowd has begun to talk, and some men, who appear to be specialists, affirm with authority that we shall come down before reaching the fortifications. Several other things have been criticized in this novel type of balloon with which we are about to experiment with so much pleasure and success. It is growing slowly but surely. Some small holes and scratches made in transit have been discovered, and we cover them and plug them with a little piece of paper applied on the cloth while wet. This method of repairing alarms and mystifies the public. While Captain Jovies and his assistants are busy with the last details, the travelers go to dine in the canteen of the gasworks, according to the established custom. When we come out again, the balloon is swaying, enormous and transparent, a prodigious golden fruit, a fantastic pear, which is still ripening, covered by the last rays of the setting sun. Now the basket is attached, the barometers are brought, the siren, which we will blow to our heart's content, is also brought, also the two trumpets, the eatables, the overcoats and raincoats, all the small articles that can go with the men in that flying basket. As the wind pushes the balloon against the gasometers, it is necessary to steady it now and then to avoid an accident at the start. Captain Jovies is now ready and calls all the passengers. Lieutenant Mallet jumps aboard, climbing first on the aerial net between the basket and the balloon, for which he will watch during the night the movements of Le Horla across the skies, as the officer on watch, standing on starboard, watches the course of a ship. Edierine Beer gets in after him, then comes Paul Bessan, then Patrice Aries, and I get in last. But the basket is too heavy for the balloon, considering the long trip to be taken, and Aries has to get out, not without great regret. Joliet, standing erect on the edge of the basket, begs the ladies, in very gallant terms, to stand aside a little, for he is afraid he might throw sand on their hats in rising. Then he commands, "Let it loose," and, cutting with one stroke of his knife the ropes that hold the balloon to the ground, he gives Le Horla its liberty. In 1 second we fly skyward. Nothing can be heard. We float, we rise, we fly, we glide. Our friends shout with glee and applaud, but we hardly hear them, we hardly see them. We are already so far, so high. What? Are we really leaving these people down there? Is it possible? Paris spreads out beneath us, a dark bluish patch, cut by its streets, from which rise, here and there, domes, towers, steeples. Then around at the plain, the country, traversed by long roads, thin and white, amidst green fields of a tender or dark green, and woods almost black. The Seine appears like a coiled snake, asleep, of which we see neither head nor tail. It crosses Paris, and the entire field resembles an immense basin of prairies and forests dotted here and there by mountains, hardly visible in the horizon. The sun, which we could no longer see down below, now reappears as though it were about to rise again, and our balloon seems to be lighted. It must appear like a star to the people who are looking up. Mallet every few seconds throws a cigarette paper into space and says quietly, "We are rising, always rising," while Captain Jovies, radiant with joy, rubs his hands together and repeats, "This varnish? Isn't it good?" In fact, we can see whether we are rising or sinking only by throwing a cigarette paper out of the basket now and then. If this paper appears to fall down like a stone, it means that the balloon is rising. If it appears to shoot skyward, the balloon is descending. The two barometers mark about 500 meters, and we gaze with enthusiastic admiration at the earth we are leaving and to which we are not attached in any way. It looks like a colored map, an immense plan of the country. All its noises, however, rise to our ears very distinctly, easily recognizable. We hear the sound of the wheels rolling in the streets, the snap of a whip, the cries of drivers, the rolling and whistling of trains, and the laughter of small boys running after one another. Every time we pass over a village, the noise of children's voices is heard above the rest and with the greatest distinctness. Some men are calling us. The locomotives whistle. We answer with the siren, which emits plaintive, fearfully shrill wails like the voice of a weird being wandering through the world. We perceive lights here and there, some isolated fire in the farms, and lines of gas in the towns. We're going toward the northwest, after roaming for some time over the little lake of Enghien. Now we see a river. It is the Oise, and we begin to argue about the exact spot we are passing. Is that Towncryl or Pontoise, the one with so many lights? But if we were over Pontoise, we could see the junction of the Seine and the Oise. And that enormous fire to the left, isn't it the blast furnaces of Monteterre? So then we are above Cryl. The view is superb. It is dark on the earth, but we are still in the light, and it is now past 10 o'clock. Now we begin to hear slight country noises, the double cry of the quail in particular, then the mewing of cats and the barking of dogs. Surely the dogs have scented the balloon. They have seen it and have given the alarm. We can hear them barking all over the plain and making the identical noise they make when baying at the moon. The cows also seem to wake up in the barns, for we can hear them lowing. All the beasts are scared and moved before the aerial monster that is passing. The delicious odors of the soil rise toward us, the smell of hay, of flowers, of the moist, verdant earth perfuming the air, a light air, in fact, so light, so sweet, so delightful that I realize I never was so fortunate as to breathe before. A profound sense of well-being, unknown to me heretofore, pervades me, a well-being of body and spirit, composed of supineness, of infinite rest, of forgetfulness, of indifference to everything, and of this novel sensation of traversing space without any of the sensations that make motion unbearable, without noise, without shocks, and without fear. At times we rise and then descend. Every few minutes, Lieutenant Mallet, suspended in his cobweb of netting, says to Captain Jovies, "We are descending. Throw down half a handful." And the captain, who is talking and laughing with us, with a bag of ballast between his legs, takes a handful of sand out of the bag and throws it overboard. Nothing is more amusing, more delicate, more interesting than the maneuvering of a balloon. It is an enormous toy, free and docile, which obeys with surprising sensitiveness. But it is also, and before all, the slave of the wind, which we cannot control. A pinch of sand, half a sheet of paper, 1 or 2 drops of water, the bones of a chicken which we had just eaten, thrown overboard, makes it go up quickly. A breath of cool, damp air rising from the river or the wood we are traversing makes the balloon descend 200 meters. It does not vary when passing over fields of ripe grain, and it rises when it passes over towns. The earth sleeps now, or rather, men sleep on the earth, for the beasts awakened by the sight of our balloon announce our approach everywhere. Now, and then the rolling of a train or the whistling of a locomotive is plainly distinguishable. We sound our siren as we pass over inhabited places, and the peasants, terrified in their beds, must surely tremble and ask themselves if the angel Gabriel is not passing by. A strong and continuous odor of gas can be plainly observed. We must have encountered a current of warm air, and the balloon expands, losing its invisible blood by the escape valve, which is called the appendix, and which closes of itself as soon as the expansion ceases. We are rising. The earth no longer gives back the echo of our trumpets. We have risen almost 2,000 feet. It is not light enough for us to consult the instruments. We only know that the rice paper falls from us like dead butterflies, that we are rising, always rising. We can no longer see the earth. A light mist separates us from it, and above our head twinkles a world of stars. A silvery light appears before us and makes the sky turn pale, and suddenly, as if it were rising from unknown depths behind the horizon, below us rises the moon on the edge of a cloud. It seems to be coming from below, while we are looking down upon it from a great height, leaning on the edge of our basket like an audience on a balcony. Clear and round, it emerges from the clouds and slowly rises in the sky. The earth no longer seems to exist. It is buried in milky vapors that resemble a sea. We are now alone in space with the moon, which looks like another balloon traveling opposite us. And our balloon, which shines in the air, appears like another, larger moon, a world wandering in the sky amid the stars, through infinity. We no longer speak, think, nor live. We float along through space in delicious inertia. The air which is bearing us up has made of us all beings which resemble itself, silent, joyous, irresponsible beings, intoxicated by this stupendous flight, peculiarly alert, although motionless. One is no longer conscious of one's flesh or one's bones. One's heart seems to have ceased beating. We have become something indescribable, birds who do not even have to flap their wings. All memory has disappeared from our minds, all trouble from our thoughts. We have no more regrets, plans, nor hopes. We look, we feel, we wildly enjoy this fantastic journey. Nothing in the sky but the moon and ourselves. We are a wandering, traveling world, like our sisters, the planets. And this little world carries 5 men who have left the earth and have almost forgotten it. We can now see as plainly as in daylight. We look at each other, surprised at this brightness, for we have nothing to look at but ourselves and a few silvery clouds floating below us. The barometers mark 1,200 meters, then 13, 14, 1,500, and the little rice papers still fall about us. Captain Jovies claims that the moon has often made balloons act thus, and that the upward journey will continue. We are now at 2,000 meters. We go up to 2,350. Then the balloon stops. We blow the siren and are surprised that no one answers us from the stars. We are now going down rapidly. Mallet keeps crying, "Throw out more ballast." throw out more ballast, and the sand and stones that we throw overcome back into our faces, as if they were going up, thrown from below toward the stars, so rapid is our descent. Here is the earth. Where are we? It is now past midnight, and we are crossing a broad, dry, well-cultivated country, with many roads and well-populated. To the right is a large city, and farther away to the left is another. But suddenly from the earth appears a bright fairy light. It disappears, reappears, and once more disappears. Jovis, intoxicated by space, exclaims, Look at this phenomenon of the moon in the water. One can see nothing more beautiful at night. Nothing, indeed, can give one an idea of the wonderful brightness of these spots of light, which are not fire, which do not look like reflections, which appear quickly here or there and immediately go out again. These shining lights appear on the winding rivers at every turn, but one hardly has time to see them as the balloon passes as quickly as the wind. We are now quite near the earth, and Beer exclaims, Look at that! What is that running over there in the fields? Isn't it a dog? Indeed, something is running along the ground with great speed, and this something seems to jump over ditches, roads, trees with such ease that we could not understand what it might be. The captain laughed. It is the shadow of our balloon. It will grow as we descend. I distinctly hear a great noise of foundries in the distance. And, according to the polar star, which we have been observing all night, and which I have so often watched and consulted from the bridge of my little yacht on the Mediterranean, we are heading straight for Belgium. Our siren and our two horns are continually calling. A few cries from some truck driver or belated reveler answer us. We bellow, Where are we? But the balloon is going so rapidly that the bewildered man has not even time to answer us. The growing shadow of Le Horla, as large as a child's ball, is fleeing before us over the fields, roads, and woods. It goes along steadily, preceding us by about a quarter of a mile. And now I'm leaning out of the basket, listening to the roaring of the wind in the trees and across the harvest fields. I say to Captain Jovis, How the wind blows! He answers, No, those are probably waterfalls. I insist, sure of my ear that knows the sound of the wind, from hearing it so often whistle through the rigging. Then Jovis nudges me. He fears to frighten his happy, quiet passengers, for he knows full well that a storm is pursuing us. At last a man manages to understand us. He answers, Nord. We get the same reply from another. Suddenly the lights of a town, which seems to be of considerable size, appear before us. Perhaps it is Lille. As we approach it, such a wonderful flow of fire appears below us that I think myself transported into some fairyland where precious stones are manufactured for giants. It seems that it is a brick factory. Here are others, 2, 3. The fusing material bubbles, sparkles, throws out blue, red, yellow, green sparks, reflections from giant diamonds, rubies, emeralds, turquoises, sapphires, topazes. And nearby are great foundries roaring like apocalyptic lions. High chimneys belch forth their clouds of smoke and flame, and we can hear the noise of metal striking against metal. Where are we? The voice of some joker or of a crazy person answers. In a balloon. Where are we? At Lille. We were not mistaken. We are already out of sight of the town, and we see Roubaix to the right, then some well-cultivated, rectangular fields of different colors according to the crops, some yellow, some gray or brown. But the clouds are gathering behind us, hiding the moon, whereas toward the east the sky is growing lighter, becoming a clear blue tinged with red. It is dawn. It grows rapidly, now showing us all the little details of the earth, the trains, the brooks, the cows, the goats. And all this passes beneath us with surprising speed. One hardly has time to notice that other fields, other meadows, other houses have already disappeared. Cocks are crowing, but the voice of ducks drowns everything. One might think the world to be peopled, covered with them. They make so much noise. The early rising peasants are waving their arms and crying to us, "Let yourselves drop." But we go along steadily, neither rising nor falling, leaning over the edge of the basket and watching the world fleeing under our feet. Jovi sights another city far off in the distance. It approaches. Everywhere are old church spires. They are delightful, seen thus from above. Where are we? Is this Courtrai? Is it Ghent? We are already very near it, and we see that it is surrounded by water and crossed in every direction by canals. One might think it of Venice of the north. Just as we are passing so near to a church tower that our long guy rope almost touches it, the chimes begin to ring 3 o'clock. The sweet, clear sounds rise to us from this frail roof, which we have almost touched in our wandering course. It is a charming greeting, a friendly welcome from Holland. We answer with our siren, whose raucous voice echoes throughout the streets. It was Bruges, but we have hardly lost sight of it when my neighbor, Paul Bessan, asks me, "Don't you see something over there to the right in front of us?" It looks like a river, and indeed, far ahead of us stretches a bright highway in the light of the dawning day. Yes, it looks like a river, an immense river full of islands. "Get ready for the descent," cried the captain. He makes Mallet leave his net and return to the basket. Then we pack the barometers and everything that could be injured by possible shocks. Bessan exclaims, "Look at the mass over there to the left. We are at the sea. Fogs had hidden it from us until then. The sea was everywhere, to the left and opposite us, while to our right the Scheldt, which had joined the Moselle, extended as far as the sea, its mouth vaster than a lake. It was necessary to descend within a minute or two. The rope to the escape valve, which had been religiously enclosed in a little white bag and placed in sight of all so that no one would touch it, is unrolled, and Mallet holds it in his hand, while Captain Jovis looks for a favorable landing. Behind us the thunder was rumbling, and not a single bird followed our mad flight. "Pull!" cried Jovis. We were passing over a canal. The basket trembled and tipped over slightly. The guy rope touched the tall trees on both banks. But our speed is so great that the long rope now trailing does not seem to slow down, and we pass with frightful rapidity over a large farm, from which the bewildered chickens, pigeons, and ducks fly away, while the cows, cats, and dogs run, terrified, toward the house. Just 1/2 bag of ballast is left. Jovis throws it overboard, and Le Horla flies lightly across the roof. The captain once more cries, "The escape valve!" Mallet reaches for the rope and hangs to it, and we drop like an arrow. With a slash of a knife, the cord which retains the anchor is cut, and we drag this grapple behind us, through a field of beets. Here are the trees. Take care. Hold fast. Look out for your heads. We pass over them, and a strong shock shakes us. The anchor has taken hold. Look out. Take a good hold. Raise yourselves by your wrists. We're going to touch ground. The basket does indeed strike the earth. Then it flies up again. Once more it falls and bounds upward again, and at last it settles on the ground, while the balloon struggles madly like a wounded beast. Peasants run toward us, but they do not dare approach. They were a long time before they decided to come and deliver us, for one cannot set foot on the ground until the bag is almost completely deflated. Then, almost at the same time as the bewildered men, some of whom showed their astonishment by jumping, with the wild gestures of savages, all the cows that were grazing along the coast came toward us, surrounding our balloon with a strange and comical circle of horns, big eyes, and blowing nostrils. With the help of the accommodating and hospitable Belgian peasants, we were able in a short time to pack up all our material and carry it to the station at Heist, where at 20 minutes past 8 we took the train for Paris. The descent occurred at 3:15 in the morning, preceding by only a few seconds the torrent of rain and the blinding lightning of the storm which had been chasing us before it. Thanks to Captain Jovis, of whom I had heard much from my colleague, Paul Ginesty, for both of them had fallen together and voluntarily into the sea opposite Mentone. Thanks to this brave man, we were able to see, in a single night from far up in the sky, the setting of the sun, the rising of the moon, and the dawn of day, and to go from Paris to the mouth of the Scheldt through the skies. This story appeared in Figaro on July 16th, 1887, under the title, From Paris to Heist. You've just finished the Trip of Le Horla by Guy de Maupassant, a haunting tale that lingers long after the final word. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, subscribe, and explore more timeless classics on this channel. And for a fresh listening experience, check out my new channel, Classic Audiobooks Library, where each story is brought to life by a different narrator. Thanks for listening, and until next time, keep exploring the world of classic literature.